Welcome to the Freight Project Podcast, brought to you by Cerasis, a North American third-party logistics company providing shippers transportation management, technology, and solutions.
On today's The Freight Project Podcast episode, I welcome longtime Cerasis Account Executive and Freight Industry Pro, Beverly Bennett, to talk about a multi-million-dollar shipper who underwent a ERP to TMS integration, which added the important capability of visibility into processes and accounting, yielding reductions in freight expenditures. We hope you enjoy this episode of the Freight Project Podcast.
Well, hello, Bev. It is great to have you on the Freight Project Podcast. It's exciting to hear from you as you're an account executive at Cerasis, and for some time, having been on the front lines with our customers and prospects, you're really hearing the market's transportation management problems firsthand, and then you're talking to them about how we might be able to solve it at Cerasis using our technology and solutions. And so I wanted to talk to you a little bit about maybe a customer that you've signed up recently or who has been with us for some time that had some challenges that you discovered with their freight management practices, and then how you aligned our solutions and our partnership in aiding them in overcoming those challenges and then, tracking closer to their desired outcomes. But before we get into all of that, since you are new to the podcast, we want to make sure we get to know Beverly Bennett. So Beverly, if you can tell us a little bit about who you are and a little bit about your background.
Well, first of all, thank you for letting me join the podcast. I appreciate the opportunity to tell you about one of my customers and a little bit about myself. I've been with Cerasis for over 10 years in what I call the business development group. I think the business development group, as consultants, we make sure that we understand the customers' challenges and goals in order to implement the right solution. And prior to Cerasis, I worked in account management, and in the LTL transportation field, I worked in several different areas, such as a terminal manager, an operations manager, sales manager, and director of national accounts. So kind of ran the gamut in that field.
So you know a little bit about freight, I would say. And you've been talking to shippers and on the carrier side and now on the 3PL side here with Cerasis for a number of years. So you probably do understand them, and it's been an interesting time, I assume, especially over the last 5 or so years in the freight world, as it continues to be more laden with technology, and various different kinds of shipping modes have popped up with e-commerce and final mile. So you could literally be a historian of those changes, and I assume you enjoy it, Bev, since you've been in it for so long?
Absolutely, I do. And you're right. There has been so many changes in just the last really 3 to 4 years. We've seen a lot with technology changes. And of course, at Cerasis, we're trying to be on the forefront of those technology changes.
Yeah. So that really kind of gets us into the heart of today's episode, right? Those changes and what can happen with change. There's a lot of challenges. It doesn't mean the shipper's inept. It just means that, hey, it's hard out there for a shipper, and they may need a good partner to navigate these challenges and these changes. So let's talk about that. The challenges that your customer faced before working with Cerasis. What were some of those challenges of a customer that you can think of that they had before they came on board, and maybe why they decided to choose working with Cerasis as their 3PL partner, and what were the results? So first, let's start with their experience before coming to us. What were they doing before?
Well, the customer had acquired several different companies. They had numerous ERPs they were working with and systems, and a lot of manual processes that each company was bringing on in their LTL truckload, and a lot of different procedures that needed to be combined. They decided to work with Cerasis because we addressed those issues to streamlining those procedures and providing an LTL and truckload solutions. We were able to integrate with all the ERP systems to provide one seamless transportation solution for them.
Well, so, that's pretty common, right? Where even without acquisitions, some companies, enterprises with various locations, they may not have a standard operating procedure when it comes to freight. They may have even multiple ER systems within one company, or other supply chain systems. And the name of the game today is visibility and being able to kind of stitch those together. And it takes some technology know-how to do that. And integration continues, at least from what I've seen from new customers and even existing customers here, a continued important aspect of modern day freight management. So it's good to see that we were able to overcome kind of some of their disconnectedness, this in nature due to that acquisition and several different divisions coming together to really, provide them with almost a single pane of glass within our TMS to their freight. So it's great. Okay, so were they, using some other service, or how were they doing this without, somebody like Cerasis helping them? Did they just kind of hope to do well, or were they just really, really troubled by it and sought out a partner like us?
Well, as they kept adding on those and making those acquisitions, they were using one auditing company, but a couple of different type of rating systems. And none of these rating systems allowed for density rating, additional accessory selections such as liftgate, notification, excessive links, and nor would they integrate with their ERP systems. And you know that in our business and in their business, you really need to have that true lane-based rating system in order to provide that cost and to be able to understand your freight expenses.
Yeah, detail's key. Yeah, and if you're using a system that doesn't really align with your individual, freight profile or detail, or have those options, it's tough to get down to it because you're not even capturing that data on the front end, much less being able to evaluate it on the back end for any sort of continual improvement. So that's challenging. I can see, what maybe caused them some challenges that they needed to overcome. And was that their big aha moment when they decided that they needed to try something new? Was it really about, just kind of bringing those systems together through integration, or was there even more issues that we helped uncover?
There was a few more issues as far as it became evident when they started evaluating more in depth their labor costs of each division processes and trying to monitor all the different reporting and what was going on at each level at the divisions and locations. They needed a way to see all the organizational reporting and to bring all those together in order to make that decision. So it was a level of needing the technology, but it was also what is our individual managers doing, our regional managers, our VPs, and then it just kind of up the chain of management of what everyone was doing and how those affected their overall transportation cost.
Okay, and so when you all started kind of putting together the scope of work, what were some of those things that that they said to you, hey, when you put together this, shipper's blueprint for us as we work with Cerasis, this scope of work, so your operations team is really aware, beyond just the sales period, right? We really want to extend that to the operations side, our implementation team, and then our customer service team as they become active in shipping with Cerasis using our TMS. What were those big buckets of goals or things that they put down as things we needed to know and do for them?
Of course, one of the top things, of course, was the ERP systems, where each location could go in and see the data, but then you had a division needed to see it, a region, the overall organizational reporting as it was. And then one of the things they really needed was an accrual report and a P&L report that combined all those reporting from all those divisions. But at the same time, it was important to them as we worked with the individual locations to see how they were using the TMS. It was important for them to keep their individuality as far as a location, being able, each manager had their own budgets they had to manage. So that was really important for them to be able to see that and to bring that. And then, of course, as we talked about a little earlier, they needed that final dollar. I want to be able to see how much I'm actually paying for freight for each location, each division. And so they can bring that all into an aspect. So they need the true lane-based rating system that included all those capabilities for them.
Yeah, so that's really good. They're a company that's seemingly enterprise in nature. They have multiple locations with multiple managers who have to report up to the enterprise, who may have to report to a board or shareholders. And then at the same time, they have these new acquisitions. And so those people at those other companies that they've now acquired kind of have to easily get visibility to. So that integration seemed to help. But, it's really one thing to say, this is what we want and this is what we want to do. It's another to actually make it happen, right? That implementation phase, one we've really put a lot of focus on here at Cerasis. So how easy or hard was it from their perspective, and maybe yours as well, to get started and onboarded with Cerasis technology and services to help, meet these desired goals that they've stated in the shipper's blueprint?
Well, as you know, each customer is always different. They have unique needs that they want to meet. And however, having several different ERP systems is not really much different than integrating with a company that has one. It's just a little bit more of a setup time and review because they have different, locations. But the basic processes of integration are still there. We meet with each division location to determine how they're using their TMS and what their needs and what they expect to see when they start with Cerasis. And then also our IT team gets to work, and our implementation team. They work with the customer's IT team in order to be able to get that system integrated and provide that combined information into one Cerasis system. And, when you've got all different people requiring a lot of different things, you got to be able to understand their processes on an individual basis of what they need. But then, on up in what the regional managers and the upper management need to be able to see also. And so that's important to make sure that you understand. The daily users are going to be the one that are there in it every day. And then the upper management's going to be receiving to reports. So you want to make sure at all levels that change is effective and understandable and that it's working for all levels.
Yeah, it really imbues confidence in that partnership when we're working together to make sure that, hey, these stated goals are this. Then we're going to start building that out. We want to make sure we get the right people involved so that they're aware of it, that you consider, what is the purpose and role of each of these teammates and how do they align to the use of it, the ultimate adoption. And then, of course, how working with Cerasis overcomes the challenges they had before. So with that said, what are, some of those kind of things that they're now seeing? How has our technology and solutions allowed the shipper to overcome the challenges that they had before?
Well, the corporate office can now see the actual spend and reports for all the organization. And then the people who are responsible for the budgets for the regions, they have that information at hand, and the visibility for all their locations at hand, they're able to see it. This gives the corporate the ability to determine how their transportation spend affects their overall profits down to, say, their location level, as well as the profitability to the customers. You can see how profitable that customer is, where they're shipping to, what zones. So there's a lot of information that we provide for them that they can see at a glance. And then as they want to dive deeper into the data, they will be able to do that. And that information is provided there for them.
Okay. Now that they've kind of been with Cerasis for a little while, how have they expressed to you in that it's different than maybe some other alternatives they've tried. Maybe it was something they did in-house before or something they did with another company. How have they said Cerasis is different from their prior experience?
In integrating a company, you start out with, the SOW and what we go through and what they need. And as you're going through those and starting the implementation process, some of those needs may change. So you've got to be able to be scalable and to be able to work with that company to be able to do that. And when we were dealing with all those ERP systems, then each one of them had a different look, a different feel that we were trying to bring on board. So we had to be scalable. And so we were, and we are, and we streamlined all the divisions and provided that organizational reporting as well as daily support.
All right. Well, that's good. That's good to hear. And, one of the things that, I think it's inherent in what we do as a consultative, problem-focused, solutions-oriented company is that, we can get into this mindset of tell me what's wrong so we can fix it. Tell me what's wrong so we can fix it. But it's always nice to hear what they've liked about working with Cerasis. What is something positive that they've told you that they like about Cerasis?
Well, they like, of course, that we're not a bolt-on. We're able to work with them, and we're flexible. And they were excited to have the one system, the process, the monitor, reporting for all their divisions. And not only did they like Cerasis TMS and what that aspect of it brought to the table, but they were very enthusiastic about the support group, which provided a way to reduce the time and labor spent, and their local people and their managers could focus on something other than getting into the weeds and everything. They were actually able to manage the business overall and be able to let their people do what needed to be done in their actual job titles.
Right. How about that? And I love that we hear more and more that, we have technology. We've had a web-based TMS since 1998. We, continue to add on features like e-commerce, final mile, integration. That's cool. That's great stuff. We talk a lot about the value of that. Obviously, being able to use technology as a way to kind of free people up is what it's for. But I really love when I hear that our customers enjoy our support team and that they love working with our people. So that's really nice to hear.
It is. We have a good set of people who work with Cerasis in every department.
Yeah, and I like to say, people love buying, right? And but people hate to be sold, and people love to have their problems fixed, but they really love a good experience during it. We all have problems. How many times have we gone to the car dealership and said, "Hey, I have this problem." We communicated effectively. The salesperson says, "Hey, I hear you. I'm going to tell my team that." You go over to service, and then all of a sudden, you don't get the thing you expected to get. That's frustrating. That means that's not a team working on the same page. And when us as a customer, whether that's a shipper or maybe in the auto example, really feel that a team is on the same page, and we can not only have the sales process feel like that, you're hearing my problems. It sounds like you have the right solutions. But when they come on board and then they're starting to work with us, that the service people where you're not involved anymore, or maybe you're just not there, Bev, are really upholding those things that you said you would be able to solve. So that's great to hear. So let's get into those specific things that they're using with Cerasis beyond the feel good working with our team. What were the exact services they utilize here at Cerasis, and how are those helping the customers reach their goals?
Well, like we talked about before, in a lot of the integration processes with being able to see all the divisions. But something we haven't talked about was the ability to use the load board, the visibility to non-contract carrier bids. Not everyone has contracts on their truckload business, so they're able to enter that information, and it's an automated process, so there's not a lot of getting quotes, calling people back. And they're also they're using our carrier group for rate negotiation and manage contracts. The auditing, we provide the accrual reports, the P&L, and then also the weekly consolidated invoice. And one of the things that they like also a lot is the freight desk. It helps support to free up the time of the shipping staff, and the special services for spot quotes and partial loads has reduced their cost on their LTL shipments. And then the vendor portal is very important. When you're looking at inbound loads, they went from not being able to manage their inbound product to now they can see all their inbound coming in. They can see the rates, and all that information is brought forward. By implementing Cerasis, they were able to understand their transportation spend and logistics process. And as the company continues to grow and gains new acquisitions, of course, Cerasis are going to be scalable there, and therefore we'll be able to integrate and grow with these the new companies as well.
Oh, well, that's fantastic. That seems like a great partnership. And, I undoubtedly have a feeling that there might be some specific metrics that they've already seen from the partnership. So are there some that you can share, and what impact has, those improved metrics from a transportation aspect meant for the company?
Well, through the efficiencies of the system and the support, they've been able to reduce their overall expense in transportation and their hard cost as well as their soft cost. They've been able to understand that transportation spend and how that relates to whether a location is profitable, whether or not they need to actually relocate product over to another location that's closer to avoid those stock transfers. And so there's different levels there that they've been able to gain, and I think we'll be able to continue to do that and to see and to report to them, when changes need to be made and what we see in the logistics area, and give them references and referrals. That's what we as consultants need to do. And then when speaking with other companies, that many believe that shipping and receiving are only departments that would be involved in it. But we know it's not. Transportation touches on many areas such as sales, customer service, accounting, shipping, purchasing, and all levels of management. So eventually companies will see overall a good result in that aspect.
Yeah, it's an interesting environment. It just takes a deeper, I think, level of organizational commitment to truly approach freight management in the best possible way, especially if you have a larger freight spend or you're a larger company. Sales has to make sure that the freight arrives on time because they promised it in the sales process. Marketing is making brand promises that supply chain and logistics have to deliver upon. And of course, if you can decrease your transportation spend or the resources needed on hard and soft costs, and that goes to the bottom line, and shareholders and are happier, and so are business owners with better profits and healthier EBITDA. So partnering with Cerasis, we really take that seriously. We're not just tactical freight folks. We're strategic logistics and transportation management partners, and that's pretty evident as you've outlined here in just one of our customer shippers' experience. So thanks for sharing that today, Bev. Appreciate you coming on the Freight Project podcast. I think some of our shipper listeners out there will be intrigued by some of those things that we've helped this shipper with. And so we hope we can have you on in the future to talk maybe about another shipper that you've had in place here at Cerasis, and maybe some different challenges that we've helped them overcome. So thanks for your time.
I appreciate it.
All right. And for all of our great listeners out there who tune in for each episode of the Freight Project podcast, I can't thank you enough for your support, and we'll see you on the next episode.